not doing these missing people one big favour, but here's another one. This took 10 years to solve. The Deal with the Devil to Catch a Killer, 60 minutes, 4.1 million views, July 24, 2019. His mum and dad. Now, his son was gay, who had an older boyfriend. The older boyfriend, long story short, said he come home and found his younger boyfriend dead from a drug overdose. So what he did, he panicked and took his son down to the bush and buried him from a drug overdose. Now, you know, he lied to the D's, and it's the same detective that's doing the story there for Channel 9 on the next video down on my channel. Former detective now. This is a case he solved before he got involved with William Tyrrell.
The night Matt died. What did Michael Atkins say about Detective Chief Inspector Gary Jublin has led the investigation for the last 3 years.
This is Gary Jublin. He's the one who used a illegal recorder.
Died of a drug overdose.
Now here's the Chief Inspector.
Slept in the lounge that Matt was deceased in the bedroom. With Matt dead in their apartment, Atkins' next move is impossible to comprehend. He did nothing. He didn't call an ambulance, certainly not the police, nor Matt's parents. Instead, he did everything to cover up Matt's death. Why? Well, he claims because he panicked. He proffered the reason for that was that he was ashamed of the fact that Matt was significantly younger than him and that he was possibly responsible for looking after him, and that he died whilst he was living with him in his care, so to speak, and his family wasn't aware of the lifestyle he was living, and he only recently came out as a homosexual. So what do you make of his account? I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
He had 9.5 years to formulate a best of those events that he can. And I think that's what he's done.
Is it feasible that your son did die of a drug overdose?
Nothing's impossible.
Nothing, but why go to this cover-up? Michael was 43 and Matt just 19 when they started their relationship in 2006. They would often go to Sydney's Arc nightclub together. And on Sunday, the 23rd of September 2007, this is where they came to party, to drink and take drugs. Just after 2 a.m, CCTV captures first Matt and then Michael leaving the club.
There they go.
In his final text messages to another friend, Matt is unhappy. Upset Michael is making them leave early.
Right.
Busy Sunday afternoon, really. I fell asleep in the lounge, watching sort of TV, and woke up a little while later and he wasn't home. So I sent him a text and said, where are you?
How about
But
lying?
Atkins' story started to unravel, and Matt's fate became tragically clearer when the young man's abandoned car was discovered by police.
Once we heard that, it was confirming all of our earlier thoughts.
Now let's just see where that was again.
When the young man's
Forest Road. Oh, right. So there's Kirrawee. That's down the Southern Shire. And there's Loftus train station down here. So that's a known gay hangout down there in the days, back in 2006. There used to be a park, and all the gay people used to go in there and meet up there with each other late overnight. Every cab driver knew it. Right? It was a known thing. All the locals knew it, right? It's just a park, and they used to go down there because there was no gay nightclubs down the Southern Shire. So they used to go down to this remote park.
abandoned car was discovered by police.
Once we heard that, it was confirming all of our earlier thoughts.
And your worst fears, I'd imagine. He's dead.
He's dead. Right. Now let's move on a bit.
To maintain, he knew nothing about Matt's disappearance.
Now this is in the court. He still maintained he knew nothing about his death.
That's when the table started to turn. at that point, then he was starting to be challenged on his answers in terms of, well, you've said this today, but on Monday you said that.
Are you telling the truth today? Under the heat of cross-examination, Atkins had little choice but to admit to his contradictions.
So you've lied, the police said. Oh, I suppose so. And you lied about this inquest. Oh, yeah.
Michael Atkins concedes at the inquest that he has lied. If you could be candid, was that a gotcha moment? Was it, yes, now we might have a breakthrough?
Well, if I could be candid, it excited me.
See, now
I'm
he
sitting in there and
works for her at Channel 9.
The opportunity was to scare Atkins into action. Atkins was now offered a second deal, but this time he had to deliver or he would go to jail. So what was the bargain?
Basically, to give Michael Atkins indemnity from prosecution for the perjury. And
in return for what?
In return for him telling us exactly what's happened.
So this was the deal. We've caught you lying. You tell us where Matt's body is and we won't prosecute you for perjury.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're going to jail for what, 10 years?
Potentially, yes, that's right. And the deal was, very important, the deal was not on effort, it was on result. So all I'm good saying, oh, I think he's here with this spot, I think he is. If there's nobody recovered or no remains recovered, no deal. It was a gamble. It was a big gamble. And Faye often says it's a deal with the devil. But we do it again in a heartbeat.
So it's a deal with the devil because, well, it's given you the ultimate gift, what you wanted most in the world,
yes.
Your son back. It's also denied you justice.
Yep, but I'd have Maddie back over justice any day.
Coming up, Michael Atkins reveals his terrible secret.
He found the location to bury Matt's body. He then dug a grave.
And the ultimate twist that could change everything. He might be cold and callous, but does that necessarily make him a murderer?
Now, this is the part what I'm saying about up there at Byron Bay. You know, I'm not being nasty to Theo's family, but I mean, he could be anywhere. Now, this is where they found this guy's body, who was deliberately buried by his gay boyfriend, who was, 20 years older than him. And by this time, 10 years later, you're not going to believe it, a palm tree had grown on top of him.
Try and recall what had happened.
In November last year, Atkins said this was the spot where he buried Matt's body, which launched an extensive police search that came up with nothing. For Mark and Faye, it was just further torment. So did you think at that point that Michael Atkins might be going to jail for perjury, or did you expect him to come up with another search site?
Yes, I was hoping that at that stage that he, it looked like he might go to jail, and would like be killed in jail.
That's what you want.
Why not?
Is that what you want?
Yes.
You want him dead?
Yes. Slowly, painfully. Not in my hand, but it comes as a job. Yes.
As another search was launched at another site, police tried to find an even greater truth. How did Matt die? Atkins tells police he thinks it could have been an accidental drug overdose.
Look at the bloody machinery. They had to dig in there to dig it all up just to find the body. This is 10 years later in the Australian bush.
He was at the
There's poor mum and dad.
There was a bit of arguing on the way home. Matt didn't want to go home, and then when they've got home, they still weren't talking. And Atkins' account is that when he woke up in the morning, he'd slept in the lounge, that Matt was deceased in the bedroom. He then provided us an account of what took place that day. He went to a Bunnings hardware store and purchased a mattock and duct tape with the express purpose of using that equipment to dispose of Matt's body. He then stayed in the apartment the rest of the afternoon into the evening until it got quite late at night. He then used Matt's car. He found the location that he thought it was suitable to bury Matt's body. He then dug a grave and put Matt's body in the grave.
Before he buried Matt, as he waited for dark, it's believed Atkins was online, already looking for new sexual partners. What does that tell you about
Sick.
this person?
It confirms all we think. This is an individual that we consider as a psychopath has no guilt, no remorse, no emotions. He'll use emotions to get his own way, but fake emotions. But he's controlling, domineering, and that's the way he is.
Knowing he would go to jail if he didn't deliver Matt's body, Atkins was adamant the grave was in the first place he'd selected. Even though it had been searched once before, Gary Jublin agreed to try again. This time, Mitch Loam was behind the controls. How did you feel about doing the job?
Oh, well, the boss just said to me, parents need closure, so whatever you do, find him.
Did you believe that you could?
L.J. Williams
Well,
Earth Moving.
we were hoping we could. Mate, as long as he was here, we were going to find him.
Having spent many off-duty hours here already, Detective Senior Constable Scott Craddock was now overseeing this last effort. It was the final hour in the final day of searching, and Scott made the fateful decision to get Mitch to knock over a small palm.
On that occasion, I looked down and I got a closer look, and I looked back at Mitch, and I sort of just said, I think we found him. It was a look about Scott on this particular point in time where I thought, this is serious. And then he took me to the site, and what I could see, what was obvious to me, that it was human remains. And I'm getting a chill just talking about it, and I certainly got a chill at the time. And I sort of looked at Scott, and he looked at me, and we said, well, we better go tell him. The walk over to them felt like a lifetime. To say, I think we found Matt, and to see their reaction, it was hard to, in that moment, to know
9.5 years later.
to see the emotion on Faye, and you're telling them something that they longed for, but that longing is something that's a horrible end as well.
So full of grief.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They found your boy.
And Scott and Mitch are my heroes. The most humble people. But they found Maddie for me.
The tenacity of the police during this part of the case, how would you describe that?
Amazing. Mate, you could not get a more dedicated, professional team that we have at the moment. They are just amazing.
And they wouldn't take no for an answer either.
They're like you guys.
Yeah, they said that we spurred the one, they spurred us on, so it was mutual.
Right.
Action-packed holiday season.
That having led police to Matt's body, Atkins can now simply walk away. His deals mean he can't be prosecuted. The coroner is yet to give her findings on the manner and cause of Matt's death. But in an incredible twist, police say it's not just the deals that protect Michael Atkins. Their new opinion is that his account, that he did not murder Matt, cannot be dismissed.
His account of it was that he believed that Matt had died of a drug overdose.
Having cross-examined him...
How do you prove a guy died of a drug overdose 9.5 years later when you find his body?
The coroner talks about whether he was truthful. What I can say is that on the information that he provided is consistent with the facts that we know, and it also led to the recovery of Matt's body.
Now this is where his body was found. That's where the palm tree was, next to that tree. But just long story short, what the parents did is they took the palm tree home, and I'm pretty sure they put it in their backyard.
Strange, digging a hole again.
Mark and Faye now tend to the palm tree that marked the grave of their son.
He's looked after it for 9 years and 8 months and 8 days.
Salvaged from the national park and now growing in their backyard.
And now we've got to keep it alive.
It's their mission to nurture it, just like they do when it comes to all memories of Matt. The Leveson legacy may be of unimaginable loss, but it's also one of great strength, born out of immeasurable
Well, they gave
love.
Mardi Gras 2017, I think.
Michael Atkins' involvement in your son's death, his certain disposal of your son's body, how do you cope knowing he will never face charges on that now?
Most days I have thoughts evil thoughts towards him. I'm not going to act on those, but I still enjoy my evil thoughts towards him. It's how I go.
I mean, yeah, you do think, oh, hope this happens to him, hope that happens to him. But as a fantasy, and we're not going to come to his level.
No.
We're not like him. We've got hearts. We care about people. Don't care about him. We've got our son back. We know at whose hand, but we've got our son back, and that's all that matters.
Truth isn't broken, heart still beats.
1986 to 2007. What a short
Hello,
life.
I'm Tara Brown.
See you
Thanks for
later, Mr.
watching.
Hominoid.
To keep
I
up
hope
with the
you
latest
that's just another example like what the Australian police do. I mean, they don't give up. I mean, somebody disappears, they will keep looking and looking and looking. You know, they will have it, might not be in the headlines, but they're out there constantly looking. But as I said, this policeman, he then got busted for illegally recording somebody in the William Tyrrell case. There's still a $1 million reward on him, a little 3-year-old boy up at Kendall. And that got him the sack out of the police force. Now he works for 60 Minutes as a private investigative consultant. So, I mean, this guy's still a cop, you know. He still may not be in the police force, but he's still got all his New South Wales police training, all his experiences. So he's still not going to give up. And he's still doing the William Tyrrell, I suppose, on the quiet. But he's also doing that missing multi-million dollar, $25 million woman, whatever her name was, up there at Vaucluse. Well, actually, I said Vaucluse. It was actually Dover Heights, which is to the east of Vaucluse. Vaucluse is on the Sydney Harbour Port Jackson side, and Dover Heights is on the ocean side. So my little correction there again. I do correct myself. I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm only 61 years old. I'm not a young fella. And so hopefully Mr. Dog never goes disappearing. You going to go disappearing, Mr. Dog? You want a bath? No, you're watching Bolt. Want a bath? Yeah, Bolt. Yeah, Bolt. Sorry about that. Interrupting the story. But anyway, if you like that, share and subscribe that around. That's an old story. That was published back in 2019. So if you want to go, that's the 60 Minutes stuff. You know, a deal with the devil. I mean, what sort of people are out there in the world? Well, like the guy said when he lied to police, he said, "Oh, he panicked. He didn't want to take responsibility for Matt's death." And this is his older boyfriend who was 40-something years of age. Well, now he'd be what? I don't know, 50-something now, 55, 56. He done it back in 2007. What's that? 14 years. So he'd be 55, something like that now. So his time would be near. He probably don't know. I wouldn't even know if he's still alive. I don't know anything about the guy. Personally, I'm not interested. I just hope nobody falls victim to him again. But I'm quite sure if he kept his nose clean, because of this amount of media attention on him, he'd be going really low to ground. He might be living in a tent on the beach somewhere. I mean, you know, that sort of publicity, and they stick your name and your face out. I mean, you're not going to show up somewhere and say, "Oh, you know, can I move an apartment there?" They're going to say, "Hey, hang on, you're the bloke on the news 10 years ago." No, it's like me. I've made that story there on YouTube 2 stories back, and I wrote back 10 years later. 2 kids and the parents walking to me bus at Byron Bay in 1997. 2007, 2010, I go to Byron Bay, walk into a pub, and I'm sitting there in the back of the pub, and the guy come up, taps me on the shoulder. He said, "Oh, called me by my first name." He said, "Oh, I remember you from 10 years ago." And I'm sitting there racking my brain, "Who the hell are you?" I mean, you know, he's grown up into a man. He's got whiskers on his face. He said, "Oh, I'm the kid that asked you, can I look inside your bus here with mum and dad?" And you went and got mum and dad. He quoted the exact words I said. "You got to go get mum and dad." Quoted me saying, "Yeah," and me walking outside getting mum and dad. And then quoted dad saying, "Oh, dad said he wanted to build a bus." Now, this is 10, 12, 14 years later. You know, the kid remembered me because of my big buff head. See, people don't forget you. That's the point I'm trying to say. People do not forget you. You do the wrong thing by people, you will get caught. So if I did the wrong thing by him, I certainly would have got caught. But I didn't. I said the right thing. I said, "Get mum and dad." Mum and dad walked in. Mum and dad looked at the bus, and dad and I had a talk. I didn't talk to the kids. I didn't talk to the mother really. I just told her how the washing machine worked with the generator. And then I talked to Dad about motors and gearboxes and everything else like two men do. And that was it. And then he remembered me sitting in a pub when he'd grown up. You know, I had no idea. I didn't even think once about it. Once I drove away from that day at Woolworths, I never put him once again in my mind. I just drove away. Because all the time people said, can I check out your bus? Can I check out your bus? It's so big. You know, I was about the only one on the east coast of Australia that was so big. 12.5 metres long, weighing 10 tonne. You know, most buses weigh about 8. I weighed 10. I was 12.5, not 10 metres. So you work it out. And I had a big bus and a trailer on the back. So, you know, a pretty big unit. Worth about $60,000 to $80,000. It's better than a bloody Winnebago motorhome. But anyway, that's just another example. So people don't forget. People always remember you, see. So he's walked up into a pub 13 years later, give me a pat on the shoulder, and he called me by my first name. And I said, I don't even remember your name. And he said, no, my name's so-and-so. He said, I was the kid that came with your mum and dad, like I just said. And I was just blown away. And I had to sit there and try and think. And I said, what, right out front of where the old movie theatre was? And he said, yeah. I said, I vaguely remember that. He said, oh, yeah, I'll never forget that day because Dad never stopped talking about the bus for about 2 months. See? So his father drummed it into his head, talking about the bus, you know. But anyway, just me, Mr. Ominoid. Come on, leave me a comment. You want me to go Byron Bay and do a filming up there around Theo? I mean, I don't want to go up there if I'm only going to get 3 views on it. Give me a break. Anyway. I'm not going to drive 800 k's for 3 views on it. I mean, you know, come on, give me a couple of thumbs up or leave me a comment. Would you like me to go to Byron Bay and film where Theo last stood? I mean, all these other Americans and English and backpackers, they're talking from overseas. I'm talking about me physically standing there on the sand there. Look, there's the sand. We're going to go stand there, exactly where he stood. I'm not being disrespectful to the family. I'm just trying to show you and show the family because obviously some of his relatives are still over there in Belgium. They've never been there. And I've never seen one yet film clip of actually showing exactly them standing on the sand where he last stood, that last final moments, what we call of his life. But as far as we know, he could have left his phone there and he could have been carried away. As I said, it's all theory. Leave me a comment. What do you think happened to Theo?